You remember that? Oh, there's somebody came in.
Yeah, it's not really.
Yeah, click on them. Wait, click on the big one. There you go. See, there's your end. So then go over, see it says panelists and then it says attendees. Click attendees. There you go.
They must be in.
Nobody wants to come early, that's for sure. Jeez.
Well, I just opened it, so.
Yeah. Two. Check your
Oh,
email.
here's people coming. Okay, they're starting to build up. I think we'll give it another minute or two.
Okay.
Because there's only 9 right now, or 6.
Okay.
Just allow people to get logged on.
Sure. I'm not going anywhere.
All right. Welcome to today's webinar, Cyber Hygiene 101. I'm Amy Keth from the Penn West University Clarion Small Business Development Center, and I'm excited to have you join us today. Keeping your data safe should be a top priority. With cyber attacks occurring every 11 seconds, every possible entry point must be secure. This session will identify the latest cyber threats and discuss what cyber policies you can implement today to build a solid cyber defense. Following today's webinar, you will receive a PDF of the presentation slides and the webinar recording. Before we get started, let me review a few reminders for our webinar. All participants have been muted and the video disabled. If you have a question for our presenter, please enter them in the Q&A by simply clicking on the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen. We are going to do our best to answer your questions today, and if not, we'll follow up with additional information. Please note that the webinar is being recorded. So I'd like to start out our webinar by introducing you to the Small Business Development Center. We are a grant-funded program with a mission to help businesses start, grow, and prosper. A small business to us is usually defined as a business with less than 500 employees. We also use our funding to provide access to database information and resources related to conducting industry and market research, financial analysis, and implementing marketing strategies. The SBDC partners with many economic programs throughout the state and nationally to help connect business owners with many resources to help them start and grow their business. We provide education, information, and tools to help businesses make better decisions. We do this by providing business consulting services and training. Our consulting services are provided at no cost and are confidential. We offer training webinars and seminars on a variety of topics that target the needs of our small businesses, including today. Other types of webinars that we host on a continuous basis is tax seminars, OSHA seminars, and various marketing seminars. In Pennsylvania, the SBDC network includes 15 centers, all located at institutions of higher education. We are part of America's SBDC, a national network that enables individuals and businesses all over the country to access our program services in their neighborhood. I'd like to introduce you to our speakers today. And again, if you ever want to connect with us, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So Joe Harford is the visionary founder and president of Reclamier, a premier cybersecurity firm established in 2001 in central Pennsylvania. With a strategic focus on sales and marketing, Joe has driven Reclamier's growth and success, positioning the company as a leader in data security and protection. His expertise and entrepreneur spirit have earned him recognition in the industry for developing innovative solutions that safeguard clients' critical information. Beyond his professional endeavors, Joe is passionate about criminal justice reform. In 2022, he and his wife Karen founded Farming to Freedom, a faith-based nonprofit organization aimed at reducing recidivism rates in Pennsylvania. The program provides individualized life coaching and education to individuals on probation or parole, facilitating successful community engagement and improved employment outcomes through accountability and positive change. Joe and Karen also enjoy boating and hiking, finding balance and inspiration in the outdoors. They have 3 sons, Nathan, Matthew, and Michael, and 2 grandchildren, Nora and Eric. Their families completed by their beloved dogs, Lacey and Remy. Joe's commitment to both cybersecurity excellence and social impact exemplifies a dedication to professional success and community betterment. Abby Kilgore is also joining the webinar to assist with answering questions when needed. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Joe take over the presentation. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. There we go. Amy, thanks so much. And thanks a lot to Penn West Clarion SBDC. We talked a little bit before we started today. Reclamier was very fortunate back in the day, and I'm talking about back in 2001, to be an alumni and a graduate of the SBDC at St. Francis, and worked with Ed Huttenhauer and his team. And the SBDC is very near and dear to our hearts. Very grateful for the work and the support they gave us. And I know that the work and support that they continue to give a lot of small businesses in Pennsylvania. So thank you for what you all do. And thanks for this opportunity. What I want to do today is talk about some practical elements of cyber hygiene. Some people may call it cyber maturity for small and medium-sized businesses. And the reason why we take a look at small and medium-sized businesses in Pennsylvania is because we know that the threat landscape has changed in such a way where those people that we would call the bad guys or hackers are targeting those organizations that are served by the SBDC. We know that. Data tells us that. We know that from reporting, et cetera. We also know that unlike our larger counterparts, because Reclamier is a small business, we only have a total of 15 employees. But what we know is that unlike our larger counterparts, we don't necessarily have the resources to deal with detection and monitoring. How are we going to manage all of the elements that go into cyber maturity, et cetera? And so the purpose of this is really to share some information, hopefully get you to ask yourself some questions about what you're currently doing. Talk to your IT service providers if you're working with one, and figure out what the next steps are going to be in order to improve your overall position today. I'm not a slide reader, and like Amy said, you'll get the slides afterwards, but just to kind of give you an idea of impact and the dangers associated with somebody who clicks on stuff, or emails that float back and forth, or the text messages that you get on your phone. I don't know if any of you have seen this recently, but over the course of the last 12 months, a number of people have been getting text messages from what appears to be the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation about unpaid tickets. And all you have to do is click on this link and you can take care of paying that ticket. That is a fraudulent text. And by doing so, someone is able to hijack your phone, and obviously now you become part of a cyber incident. And then obviously you see any number of emails that come to your inbox. Again, different kinds of text messages, et cetera. But the intent is this. We all have information that's valuable: name, social security number, date of birth, company information, financial information, health information. And that information, for those on the dark web, those that are in the cyber area, want to steal it because they can make an incredible amount of money. So it's nothing personal. It's just simply, it's a transaction. It's a financial gain. And so it is a business, in fact. It's not, three guys hanging out in their mom's basement. It's a group of individuals, in some cases from nation states overseas, that are specifically targeting us so they can steal our information and they can make an incredible amount of money. So that's the transaction. That's how it works. When we talk about cyber hygiene or cyber maturity, these are some of the areas that we want you to really pay attention to. More importantly, how are you going to start either today or tomorrow or Monday to figure out what are you going to do in your own business? Now, this is where I want to pause for a minute. People will say, listen, Joe, I have 3 employees and I'm trying to make payroll and I have a lot going on and I don't think I have to worry about cyber. Or someone may turn around and say, listen, Joe, I've got 100 employees and I've got an outsourced IT company, and that's their responsibility. I don't have to worry about it. I would say that that's a false belief. And I would encourage you to think about it this way. The information that you have is valuable and people want to steal it. And so in order to protect yourself, first your business, and then your employees, and then your customers, you really have to take the perspective that you are responsible and you do have to pay attention to it. And I'm not asking you to spend an incredible amount of money on information security because you don't need to. I am asking you to just for a moment pause and kind of think about what's at stake. One of the areas when we work with organizations today that we find is really lacking, and that is the idea of password management. I would say of these three areas, this is the number one area for small and medium-sized businesses that's really bad. What do I mean by that? When we do audits of facilities, the top left-hand drawer of someone's desk is the best place for passwords to be put on Post-it notes. So for those of you that are now ripping Post-it notes off of your monitors, or sometimes Post-it notes are underneath keyboards, etc. There are a number of tools out there that you can use that are either free or incredibly inexpensive that will allow you to securely store your passwords, whether it's for your Gmail account, for your banking account, your business banking account, or any other number of passwords that you may be tracking on a daily or weekly basis. I really encourage you to get away from Post-its and notes. We had someone a few months ago say, well, listen, I have all my passwords in an Excel spreadsheet. And my Excel spreadsheet is on my desktop computer, and only I have access to it. Okay, well, imagine if you have a breach and your desktop computer is compromised, so is that Excel spreadsheet. So please, if you take anything away from this today, stop using Post-it notes or whatever other fashion you are, and really strongly consider some form of an electronic password management system. It will save you an incredible amount of headaches. It will be much more secure than what you're currently doing. And like I said, many of them are either free or incredibly inexpensive. I would imagine that most of you have heard of these terms in the past. I would say that phishing attacks are alive and well. They are more complex and sophisticated than they have been in the past. We know that they are only going to get worse as time goes on because people are getting more aware. Security awareness training is a thing, and people are spending money and paying attention to their employees. You see weak passwords as part of the list. I've met customers, their password is Penn State with the @ sign and then the year they graduated. That's really a weak password. And then when they are prompted to get a new password, they try to add numbers to it or letters to it. You really need to consider stronger passwords. That's one of the reasons why with a password manager, it will actually create a complex and complicated password for you that you're not going to be required to remember. It will be stored in the application in a secure fashion. Now, some people that are on the call today may say, listen, I have nothing to do with healthcare. I have nothing to do with financial services. And sure, I work in manufacturing, but I'm not part of the DoD supply chain. I really don't think this applies to me. Well, let me share with you a story about an organization who felt that way about a year and a half ago. And one of their employees clicked on a FedEx shipping tracking link, which happened to be a false link. They downloaded ransomware to the computer, and they took control of the environment. And literally, that business was no longer able to transact business on their computer network. And so that's a reality for you. So sure, you may not have necessarily healthcare information or financial information from your customers that you're storing. But today, when you think about the number of businesses that are in Pennsylvania, small and medium-sized businesses that are in Pennsylvania, well over 90%, if not higher, are operating off of the internet. They're conducting business via the internet. So if you're not able to take orders from your customers, if you're not able to respond to your customers, if you're not able to answer questions, process invoices, et cetera, and so forth, you really are, you're kind of dead in the water. You can't do anything. You can't operate as a business. Ransomware will shut your business down. And without a very robust and well-tested and process-driven backup plan, ransomware has the potential to crush your business. So again, none of this is meant for fear. I don't believe in fear mongering or trying to get people to be all sketched out about what's going on. I'm simply taking 25 years of experience and sharing it with you. Some of the horror stories that have been out there in the world today, you can look those up on the internet for yourself. They're real, they're alive. And what we know is that small and medium-sized businesses are a great target. And so we want you to be prepared. We want to make sure that you don't call saying, oh my gosh, I can't get to my data. I can't run my business because somebody wants a $10,000 ransom. Or, oh my gosh, we're ransomware attacked, but our backups have failed and we're not able to use our backups. That's what we want to prevent with this presentation today. So obviously, you don't want to suffer a data breach. Some people may turn around and say, well, you know, I have cyber insurance, so I'm covered. I'm covered with cyber insurance. Well, depending upon the exclusions in your policy, that may not necessarily be the case. And understand that insurance companies are in the business of collecting premiums and not paying out claims. They don't want you to have a data breach that they have to pay for. And so they're going to make sure, hopefully, that you've done your own due diligence before you ever get a policy to say that you have a cyber secure environment. But, you know, just beyond that, you have to think about, how about your customers? I don't know about you, but we have customers across the United States of America. We've been very, very fortunate in 25 years to really grow a great customer base. And I can't imagine that I have to call one of those customers, regardless of the market that they're in or the size that they are, and say, oh, by the way, Abby, I got some bad news for you. Reclamier had a security incident that evolved into a data breach, and the information that you've trusted me with for years is now out in the wild. It's been breached, and you're going to have to deal with the fallout because my business caused that to happen. Nobody ever wants to be in a situation where you call your customer with bad news. And more importantly, we obviously don't want to break that trust. It takes all of us as small business owners a long time to be able to build a business, to be able to build that client base. We build that on trust and on faith in our services and our ability to follow through and live up to our word. And when we have to make that phone call to somebody, that's a heartbreak, and we don't want to make it. And then finally, regulatory compliance. Depending upon the organization that you're currently running or owning today, I'm sure you're very familiar with things like HIPAA, all of the requirements around FFIEC, et cetera, and so forth. But it really is just about another good business practice. We take a look at business practices. Having a cyber secure environment is just another good business practice that you need to be aware of. I'm not telling you that you have to implement everything that we're talking about. I'm asking you to stop for a moment and see where you think you may have some gaps. Maybe there's some areas that you're doing really well in and you feel really good about it, and that's cool. But maybe there are some areas where you're like, hey, you know, I'm not really sure about this whole password management thing, or I'm not sure about whatever the case may be. So again, I just want you to be able to just kind of for a moment, just stop and think and ask yourself those questions as you get ready to take a look at tomorrow and Monday. This may seem like a lot. This is a lot of the work that Reclamier does for its clients today when we try to sit down and figure out what is your cyber posture, and whether we're working with a client that has 10 employees or we're working with a client that has 10,000 employees. It really doesn't matter to us. What we're trying to do is understand data itself. Where does it reside? Do you have a completely hybrid workforce, a remote workforce? Are your computers owned by the company or are they owned by the employees? Are employees using their computers for both personal use as well as work? How are we dealing with software updates? What does that look like? And then finally, how do we make sure that we all know that Windows 10 is coming up on its expiration, its retirement? So what does that mean to the computers that you have in your work environment today? Are any of those computers Windows 10? If they are, there's an expiration date on those, and you're going to have to deal with that transition to newer technology. So what I want you to realize is that as a small business, there are plenty of resources that you have out there. I would reach out to people like Amy at SBDC and ask some of these questions and have them help you with cyber, have them help you with the change in IT equipment, have them help you with assessment work and try to figure out what is your overall posture and what are you going to do to say, okay, here's a snapshot in time of what I look like and what the business is doing. But oh, by the way, this is where I want to go. And I want to go there either because perhaps my cyber insurance company requires it. We have a client in the healthcare space, small business down in the Mechanicsburg area. And about 6 months ago, their cyber insurance carrier came to them and said, listen, your renewal is going to be coming up in 90 days. Well, in order for us to renew your policy, you have to be able to show us that you have a documented and tabletop tested incident response plan, or IRP. An incident response plan is just that. It's a plan to help an organization when a cyber event occurs to determine whether or not a data breach has happened and a data breach has to be reported. So for instance, someone loses a laptop, someone is attacked by ransomware, someone loses a mobile device, someone clicks on a link and something happens. Those are incidents. And it's important at this particular time to understand the use of language. Just because Abby comes to me and says, oh my gosh, I lost something or I clicked on something, that doesn't mean that you had a data breach that has to be reported. It means that you had a security incident. The purpose of the incident response plan is to, in a very organized and methodical fashion, help to determine if that security incident has itself evolved into a data breach. If it has, how are we going to stop the damage? And is that data breach reportable? Because not all of them are. So those are the real values of an incident response plan. So this client was in a situation where they were told by the insurance company, listen, without a documented and tabletop tested incident response plan, we're not going to renew your cyber insurance policy. So they came to us and we were able to help them do it. Now, there's a difference between having an incident response plan and having a tabletop tested. Just having a plan isn't enough. And I would encourage you that if you have them already today, that you do in fact go through a tabletop exercise. Either do it internally with your own team or look to a resource like Reclamier or the SBDC to help you go through a real live example so you can see how does the plan work. Who's responsible for what? Who's responsible to answer the IT questions? Who's responsible to answer the legal questions? Who's responsible to answer HR questions, etc. So without that plan, you can imagine you've got a lot of people running around like a chicken with their head cut off, freaking out because they're not exactly sure what it is they should be doing. So that plan kind of removes the emotion. It tempers the feelings and the fear to say, okay, let's walk through this step by step to figure out what it is that we want to do next. Before I go on, Abby, I want to pause because I wasn't sure if there were any questions that have come up in the chat that you'd like me to answer.
Actually, one just came up. John asked, what does tabletop tested mean?
Sure. So John, great question. Tabletop testing. So we build an incident response plan for the organization, and that incident response plan identifies the people that will be on your incident response team. Reclamier is on the incident response team for a number of our customers. And so that plan is going to then be tabletop tested. So we're going to put everybody into a room. Typically, we do it over lunch because people like to eat. And we go through the exercise to say, okay, here is an example, John. We're going to say that ransomware has gotten into your computer network and that a computer has been hijacked. And we're now going to take your incident response plan and we're going to start to walk through it with all of the people on your incident response team to decide how do we address ransomware in the environment? When that exercise is over, we go through a lessons learned activity as well. Maybe there were some parts of that plan that have to be adjusted. Maybe there are people that were included in a particular part of the plan that really don't need to be. And so we can make that modification. But that's tabletop testing. For lack of a better term, it's like a fire drill. Like when I was a little kid growing up, the fire drill goes off, you run outside, you stand underneath a particular light, the teacher comes by and they count out your number, and hopefully all the kids are there, right? This is the same thing. We want to be able to make sure that that incident response plan is going to function for your business. Not all incident response plans are created alike. My incident response plan for Reclamier will most certainly be different than it is for your company, John, and for anyone else who's on the call today. Anything else, Abby?
That is all the questions that we have for now.
Okay, so when we talk about strong passwords, and you're probably saying, like, this is the third time you've talked about it. It is the third time I've talked about it, and I'll probably talk about it maybe even a fourth time. This is a huge issue with clients across the United States and quite frankly, across the world. And the reason for it is because we have so many applications that we're using today that require a username and password. And we get so ticked off that we have to have all these crazy passwords. And then we have something called multi-factor authentication. And then something happens to my phone. And oh my gosh, well, if you take a look in the newspaper, you take a look on the internet, you can see the number of data breaches that have occurred and the damages that have been caused by those breaches. So that's why we focus on this, because this is such a weak area. And again, when we do assessments and we take a look at some of the passwords that people use, it's kind of frightening, to be very honest with you. First and foremost, we regularly will find passwords written on Post-it notes, on people's desks, underneath their keyboards, or attached to their monitors. No kidding. The other thing that's kind of scary is when people will share passwords. That's the other thing that happens on a pretty regular basis. Abby has a really cool password, so I'll just use hers. When people have not enabled multi-factor authentication. So what I want you to do is to take a look at those things, those applications that you use every single day. So I'm assuming you use email every single day. You may have a particular application that you're using as part of your business. Your business banking, as an example. So, you know, when you're doing business banking or personal banking for that matter, those applications that you're using every single day, write them down on a piece of paper. That's the first thing. Then the second thing I want you to do is I want you to write down what are the username and passwords for all of those applications. You mean to tell me you're going to give me homework? Yep, I'm going to give you homework. I'm just not going to check on it because I won't be back to check on it. And I want you to look at that password and ask yourself an honest question. Is it really complex? Most of the time, it's something that's super easy for you to remember. It's your kid's name and their month of birth, their day of birth, and their year. And you make it really complicated by putting a dot in between the month, the day, and the year. Not a good idea. Or you turn around and it's your dog's name or anything else. The complexity of those passwords is key and it's important. And that's why, again, I go back because I'm kind of lazy by nature. Find a really great password manager. We use a tool called Keeper. It's not free and it's not super expensive, but it's a really great tool. We use it across the business. And what I like about it is Keeper can be used for both personal as well as business password management. And I would really encourage you to take a look at something like that.
Hey, Joe, before you move on to the next one, there's just a follow-up question from John asking if there's a generally accepted number of tabletop tests that should be carried out each year.
John, you have really good questions. I don't, by the way, for everybody else who's attending today, I don't know John. He's not a plant, and we did not give him these questions, but thanks for asking the question, John. What we recommend to our clients is that you do a tabletop exercise once a year. What we do with our clients, we will build the incident response plan. We will run the tabletop exercise, normally with 2 different scenarios, and that will be a project. What we then do is we encourage them to go ahead and test that on an annual basis. We will come back to the client and test their incident response plan on an annual basis at no cost, because we're that serious about it. That's how important it is when you start talking about the overall makeup of how do you build a cyber mature environment. That incident response plan is key, and we really want to be able to support our customers. But at least once a year, John. If you want to do it more, by all means, go for it. But at a minimum, you're going to want to do it once a year. So I'm sure all of you have heard these terms that are here, firewalls and Wi-Fi and all this kind of stuff. And I should have said before I started, I'm not a technologist. That is not the world that I live in. My job is, as a business owner, to make sure that debits and credits work, to make sure that we're growing the business and our customers are satisfied, and that I'm able to share educational information with clients and team members to help them grow in what it is they're trying to accomplish. So when I take a look at technology, I'm fortunate to have a team of people that I work with that are truly technologists that are down in the weeds and do all of this work. I'm a user, as many of you are. And so in many cases, what will happen is we'll say, hey, you know what? I'm going to travel. And I have my travel laptop, and I'm in a hotel, or I'm in a Starbucks, or wherever. And hey, they have free Wi-Fi. I'm going to connect to free Wi-Fi. You do not want to do that. Do not collect $200 and pass go. Do not use free Wi-Fi. You're sitting there going, this guy is crazy. I am crazy. I'm crazy because free Wi-Fi is an open door to get into your computer and to be able to steal your information. And yes, people do it. So there are devices called sniffers that you can put onto a laptop. You can go into a Starbucks, and anybody who's connected to that open, unsecured Wi-Fi network, I can get access to your laptop. That's a reality. The same thing in hotels with free Wi-Fi. So Joe, what am I supposed to do? I'm glad you asked. So you've got your phone providers. You've got Verizon, you've got T-Mobile, you have AT&T, whoever your phone provider is. You should have availability for a personal hotspot. That hotspot is encrypted and secured. If you are not at your business on a secured network or at home on a secured network, you need to be using your hotspot when you're traveling and connecting to that hotspot. Please stop using free Wi-Fi. Yeah, but I'm only going to go in for a little bit, and I just have to check my balance on my credit card or my checkbook. Or I'm letting you know, if you use free Wi-Fi, you are completely and totally unprotected. And if someone decides that just in passing by that they're going to try to steal credentials, they can do that. So I've given you the information. The other thing we talk about is, often we talk about your network at work being secure. How many business owners are out there that have a network at home and work from home? I'm one. I know Abby's one. I'm sure many of you are, right? Well, you have to start to ask yourself some questions there. So for the router that you have at home that provides you with internet broadcasting that you connect through, what's the password that's on that router? How old is that router? When was the firmware on that router updated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the same type of technology challenges that you may be facing in your business with 3 people or 30 people or 300 people, those are the same challenges that you're facing at home. Oh, by the way, is the network that your employees that you work with every day that are working from home, is their network safe and secure? That's a really great question to ask, and it's something you should be able to find out and determine. And if not, you should be working with those employees to help them. Number one, not only does it protect your business, but it protects your employees so that they don't have to worry about having their own personal information stolen as well. Oh my gosh, a policy. Really? You want me to write a rule? It's not that difficult. It's really not. In fact, there's this really cool invention called ChatGPT. Yes, I said it, artificial intelligence, that is at least a place for you to start. I would not copy it down verbatim, but at least it gives you an idea of how to start. The other place where you can get a cyber hygiene policy from could be from your attorney, depending upon the experience that your attorney has, that they can help you. Well, why do I want to do this? Well, because we live in a world and an age where you have to be able to address these things in policy in order to be able to protect yourself, making sure that you have an ongoing security awareness training program for your employees. If you have employees that are working in your organization and they have never been through any form of security awareness training, that's a liability for you. That's a real challenge. And there are plenty of tools out there. Again, many of them are free. A lot of them are inexpensive, and they really help to reinforce the message. The biggest one is don't be a clickster. Don't be somebody who just clicks on links. Well, I'm really curious, or wow, I was interested, or hey, that looks kind of interesting to me. No, you have to take a look at the material that you're working with a very critical eye and be very careful what you're clicking on. And then we start talking about security awareness training and sessions and education. Kind of along the same lines as tabletop testing. At least annually, all employees should be going through some form of security awareness training. I would tell you that our clients, depending upon who they are, they will go through it on a quarterly basis. And we have some clients, because of the nature of what they do, they actually have their employees go through it on a monthly basis. You have to determine what level of risk you believe you present and your employees present to help you figure out what does that frequency look like and what's going to be best for your business. So before we start talking about backups,
Quick
and this
question,
is,
Joe.
oh, sure.
I'm so sorry, but before we start the slide, we have a question from Eleni, and I apologize if I said that wrong, but I believe that's right. Is free Wi-Fi protected by username and password secure?
Is free Wi-Fi protected by username and password? So I would take from the question that what you're saying is, so you go to a Sheraton and you click on the Wi-Fi and it asks for your last name and your room number, and then you click on that Wi-Fi and you're now connected to it. No, it's not.
Thank you, Joe.
Anytime that you are away from your home network or your business network, you want to be on your personal hotspot. That's going to be the most secure for you. Now, there are a lot of other more complicated solutions that you can follow. I don't like things that are complicated, so that's why I say take out your phone, fire up your hotspot, and start doing your job, and you'll be in a much better spot. Backups are huge. Backups are really huge, especially when we start talking about a ransomware attack. So a ransomware attack is this. Organization gets access to your network. They're able to encrypt your data. They're able to shut you down. And they basically turn around and say, Abby, for $10,000, I'll give you all your stuff back. And then you have to make up your mind, are you going to pay the ransom? Well, if you don't have a well-designed, robust backup system that has also been tested on a regular basis, you're most likely going to be really susceptible to that attack. And you're going to have to make a business decision whether or not to pay the ransom, or are you going to go without that data? Or do you have to rekey the data, or whatever the case may be? Backups are a complicated animal because of the nature of what they do in your business. They're literally making sure that all of the work that you did today and yesterday, etc., is backed up. And it's backed up someplace that's secure and reliable. And it's something that you can restore from. Now, there's a lot more technology and technical aspects that go into the conversation around backups and restore that I'm not going to do on today's call. But I would just simply tell you that if your method for backing up is to take a tape drive or an external hard drive home with you every night, that's something I would really advise against. There are plenty of resources out there that you can use cloud-based solutions. There are service providers out there that can provide you with solutions that are relatively inexpensive and much more secure than taking an external hard drive home with you every night and then bringing it back into the office the next day. But regardless what you do, understand that those backups of your business are critical and something that you really have to pay attention to and invest the right amount of time and money to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Hey Joe, one more question.
Sure.
We have one from Shane. What are your thoughts on KeyPass offline versus Proton Pass online?
Shane, you win the award for stumping the presenter. So if you want to tell me specifically in the chat field what you'll be applying, is that a password manager or is that a backup solution? And hopefully Shane is now feverishly typing away his answer. I'm familiar with the terminology. I'm just not exactly sure what it applies to, Shane.
He said password managers.
Password managers. Okay. I'm familiar with both of those. I am not familiar with them from the perspective of using them. I would say that I don't know how they are configured. And what I mean by that is sometimes you'll see password managers where they will have a free version and then they'll have a paid version. I would prefer the paid version because the old adage is you get what you pay for. And when you're talking about something as complicated and complex and serious as passwords, I don't want a free solution. And again, they're not incredibly expensive. But what I would say to you is this: if you're looking for a place to start and you just want to get used to the technology and the ease of use and how it functions, etc., sure, give it a whirl, see what happens. But I would say once you become comfortable with the technology, I would move to a paid version sooner rather than later. Again, because you get what you pay for. Hopefully that's helpful, Shane. So cyber incidents. This kind of goes back to an earlier question around incident response plans and really being able to understand what happens. Incidents happen on Fridays at 4:30 when everybody's ready to go home for the weekend. They're never convenient, they're never timely, and they're always overwhelming. Being able to understand what you would do in that case is really paramount if you want to make sure that you can survive it. Because I will tell you, having had the experience of going through this with customers, it is a very emotionally overwhelming and draining experience. It really is. And so being able to know, what do I do in this organization of 7 people? Who do I call? Who do I tell? Who do I work with? Who don't I call? Who don't I tell, etc.? Who's going to be responsible for dealing with the backups? Who's going to be responsible for dealing with computers that have to be shut down? How do we recover? What do we do as a next step? Do I have to work over the weekend? All of those things, all of those elements and those questions will be answered in your incident response plan. But the first thing you need to do as an organization is sit down and say, okay, if we were to have a data breach today, what would we do? And if the answer is, I have absolutely no idea, well, that's an indication you've got to start someplace, and the place you want to start is with building an incident response plan. These are just some of the regulations that some of you may apply to you. You may be familiar with. Often what I say to small business owners is it's not that I don't care about regulations and compliance. What you have to care about first and foremost is your reputation as a business owner. If you have a breach, you have to care about the impact that you may cause to happen to your customer. And in the worst case scenario, the impact where you have to call a customer and say, oh my gosh, XYZ hospital, ABC bank, I'm sorry, but I breached your data. If any of you recall, back in the day, the Target data breach. The Target data breach occurred because an HVAC vendor in the Pittsburgh area had software on their laptops that was corrupted and actually created that breach. It wasn't because the HVAC vendor was malicious, because they weren't. It was that they're not cyber experts. They're an HVAC company doing HVAC work. They just happen to be plugged into the network of Target. And so the reality is that we as small business owners present risk to our customers. And so whether it's regulatory compliance or just simply wanting to have good cyber maturity, you got to pay attention to the level of risk that you're presenting to your customer. You're their partner. They're depending on you, and you got to pay attention to those things. I'm sure all of you have talked about or heard about a number of these things in the past. Paying attention to those is really important. We've moved from antivirus now to what's called endpoint detection and response, managed detection and response, a lot of really crazy acronyms to basically say it's the next generation of antivirus, making sure that your phones, your laptop computers, your servers, that anything that has the connectivity that it has to the internet and access to data is in fact protected, is a part of the contemporary network today. Really making sure that, again, you pay attention to what resources does the SBDC have for you? How can they help you? I would, if you've got questions when this is over, obviously you'll have our contact information and you can reach out to us. But I think reaching back out to Amy and their team would be helpful as well. And obviously, if we can help them, we're happy to do that. But you really want to be able to sit down and start to ask yourself questions like, what are all the applications that I have? Username and passwords. Is my network protected at work? Is it protected at home? What am I doing about security awareness training? Oh my gosh, do I have antivirus, et cetera, and so forth. Now, as we get ready to wrap up, you may feel like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. First of all, you ruined my lunch. I'm overwhelmed and freaked out. No, I want you to take a deep breath and pause. You don't have to do all of this overnight. All I would like you to do is just think about, when you get done, where are you today? With all of the information that's here, and you get the presentation and you review it, where are you today? Do you feel really good about your passwords? Cool, check it off the list. Do you feel like your employees know exactly what's up and they're not going to click on stuff and cause you aggravation? Check it off your list. Cool. If you have no idea whether or not your data is backed up or not, you should probably have a conversation with somebody, either your IT service provider or reach back out to Amy and her team and see if they can help you. But that's what this is really all about. Just trying to figure out, where are you now that you've gone through this presentation? Do you have an incident response plan that's been tabletop tested? That could be a question that you have to ask yourself, right? What are we going to do about outdated software? What are we going to do in the office about the Windows 10 retirement? So again, don't be freaked out. Don't not do anything. I would definitely say always reach back out to the SBDC and ask them for some help. And if they need our assistance, or you want to reach out to us directly, you may. But please don't be overwhelmed, and also don't believe being cyber mature will not break the bank. It is an investment, but you are not going to spend tens of thousands of dollars to do this. And if someone tries to convince you otherwise, they're wrong. You got to start with the basics first. Password management. What are your employees doing at work? What are they clicking on? How secure is your network at work? How secure is your network at home? And what are you doing about backups? Those are the things that you should be paying attention to between now and the end of June. By the time you get to the end of June, you should be able to answer all of the questions associated with that, and then you can go on to the next set of questions. Amy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Abby, I don't know if there's any other questions or not.
There is one from John, and it does have a little bit of context before, so it's a little bit longer.
Okay.
But he says that his virtual one-person business is home-based and the only internet access is through Spectrum. He only uses the Ethernet port through the Spectrum cable box, no router. His Norton software recently said that Spectrum is not a private/secure network. It is considered public. Therefore, Norton pop-up said that it is limited access to internet. Said that it limited his access to internet. I apologize. His question is, are vendors like Spectrum truly public? If yes, are there any options for one-person business users like me?
Wow, that's a lot, John. See what I can do. So my assumption is that Spectrum is his internet service provider.
Mhm.
That's my assumption.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's
Okay.
what I took from it. Yeah. He said
Okay.
that home
So
based and only internet
okay.
access through Spectrum.
So, well, without understanding what Spectrum offers and how that configuration works, I really don't feel confident that I can give him an answer. What I would say, John, if you want some follow-up, an answer to your question, if you would share with Amy your contact information, Amy can share that with us. We can get that put together. And that's something we can shoot to Tim, Abby, and see if
Okay.
Tim can answer that question for him. But I'd be happy to do that for you, John, if you want to share your contact information with Amy and she can get it to us. Anything else, Abby?
That is all I have over
Okay.
here as of now. Yeah.
Okay, great. Amy, thank you.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for participating in today's events. Again, I want to thank Joe and Abby from Reclamier for partnering with us to make this event possible. You will receive a follow-up email from us. It'll probably be next week. Our training coordinator's on vacation this week, which is why I'm filling in. But we will be sent the slides and the recording from today. You will also get a survey to complete. We kindly ask that you complete the survey. Your feedback is valuable to us and what you think about our training events so we can continue to provide the best training possible for you. Again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me at sbdc@penwest.edu. And you can also visit our website and request consulting if you need some. All right. Thank you all and have a great
Thanks,
day.
Amy.
Oh,
Thanks, Abby. See you all later. Good luck.
Thank you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yes, you too.
Bye.